Hey everybody, Coach here, welcome. Hey, this particular video is going to be about inheriting, buying, or doing whatever with a mature landscape and revitalizing it, putting new life back into it so it's usable for you and yours for years to come. So join me, won't you? Hey, this channel is all about getting DIY education, theories, and concepts in an easy to understand format so you can get professional results you want and be a heck of a lot more self-reliant and save a boatload of money in the process. You know, many times I read on the social media platforms that I follow how people have bought their first home, or they've bought a home, or they have inherited a home. And these homes are older and existing, and they have overgrown and mature landscapes. And you read all the time about how they're so perplexed and just don't know where to start. You can really tell in their writings that they are just overwhelmed. So what is a homeowner to do with a situation like that? How are they supposed to address something that is obviously very daunting from a DIYer's perspective? That's what we're here to talk about today. You know, I've stated in other videos, you can check out this one right here in particular. And I also detail it out quite a bit in the ebook and the online course that I have about my first house, because I did exactly this. I was a young dumb fool at the age of 24 with a brand new family, and I needed a home, and I bought a home pretty close to where I grew up, and it had an overgrown, mature landscape. And it took me 18 months with some training already under my belt, 18 months to reverse the overgrownness and remove some of the elements that were there that were just a pain in the ass. Plus put in French drains and irrigation systems. You know, it took me 18 months. And if you're in this particular situation and you're facing that, you're going to need some guidance and coaching and get a little bit of education as far as how to do it, where to start, and how to go about it. You know, being a new homeowner is stressful and daunting enough, you know, with all the preparation in the buying process, packing, actually moving in, settling into a new neighborhood or a new town in a whole nother state. That's stressful enough. Now, after we get in and we get settled just a little bit, now you start to see the reality creep back into our lives. We see little things that need improvement, more than we saw when we bought it. We go, oh my God, the paint is chipping off this whole side of the house. How come we didn't see that? Or how come the irrigation, oh shoot, I thought the irrigation worked. Wasn't that checked out in the inspection? No, honey, it wasn't. Any of that sound familiar? So when we look at those rather large projects, certainly a lot more than a weekend honeydew, you know, we start seeing things maybe in the landscape that are going to need to be addressed so that that landscape starts serving you. Not the previous owners, but you and the needs that you're going to want from this landscape. Perhaps you have, you know, a mature landscape, but it looks kind of like this, you know, and these kinds of things to the average homeowner without any practical experience or skill set in landscape makeover, they're just going to throw their hands up and go, why in the hell did we buy this place? Well, you bought it because of certain facets of where you're working, what the neighborhood's like, what the potential can be, and now you're going to go through a step-by-step process of evaluation and how to tackle this monster and wrestle it to the ground so that you have a new, revitalized, mature landscape. Although I don't like to make assumptions, we'll make assumptions for the sake of the length of the video here. We're going to assume that you knew going into this that the landscape was going to need some attention, and it was going to need some attention soon. So here you are. You're at that crossroads now. You're settled in. You're starting to live your life. You've got your new job or whatever kind of underneath your belt a little bit. You're all feeling secure with the kids going off to a new school. And now it's time to address this monster. I like to think of it in like the top 6. The top 6 things that you should be looking at and addressing pretty soon on. Number 1, and that is mature trees that you have in your landscape. Mature to the point that they're a threat. And when I say a threat, they're a threat to damaged limbs that could be dangling over your dwelling or a neighbor's dwelling. A type of tree like super large Bradford pear that are very, very brittle and break easily under snow loads and high winds and stuff. If you have trees that are a threat, those would be my first area of concern. Identify them, look and see how much it's going to take, and then decide, is this something I can do myself, or is this something that I need to have a professional come in on? And I always suggest to people, if it's a big tree, big, I'm talking 40, 50 feet, unless you have that skill set, which I don't, I never touch trees over 20 feet. Number one, my insurance never let me. And number two, I never felt comfortable with a chainsaw and ropes and other things up in the tree. And I usually did a lot of work myself. So I always subbed those kinds of jobs out to local tree companies that came in and did the work for me. I would suggest you might follow the same trend. Number two is irrigation. Now, some of you, especially in those water-laden areas of the world, where I happen to be right now, with the west branch of the Ammonoosuc River right behind me, there's more water than they could possibly use. And they say that they're kind of dry right now here. You want to see dry? This is dry. But many parts of the country and world need assistance as far as supplemental irrigation to our landscapes. Evaluate your irrigation system. If it's mature, are we talking galvanized pipe type of mature? Are we talking about brass manual valves mature? Or are we talking something that can be updated fairly easily? Turn on all the system. Make sure that all the valves are working. If you only have half the valves working off of a timer, then we have maybe a small electrical issue we have to address. If they're all working manually, but you have a couple of zones that have Old Faithfuls that are coming up, then you have to address those. Those are simple DIY projects that you can address in a single weekend. The next thing is drainage. Drainage is something that it's a hidden monster until it's too late. I strongly suggest that if you do have an existing system, that you start testing it right away before rains return this fall, winter, and spring. You know, you can put a hose down a downspout if you have the system hooked up, or you can put it into a catch basin if you can locate and identify one, and make sure that it flows. If it does not flow, then perhaps you need to shove that hose down from both terminal ends and beginning ends and see if you can't wash it out yourself. If not, there are plumbers out there that have hydro jets like this that'll be glad to come out and rotary cut through that thing, especially if it's infiltrated with roots or some other kind of blockage, including but not limited to rats, mice, skunks, etc. So make sure that you address that. You don't want to wake up one morning and have a flooded landscape. You're going, oh my God, they said this place had drainage. But the due diligence wasn't done on your part, on your inspector's part, or disclosure from the previous owner saying, yeah, I got drainage all right, but it's clogged. It's clogged like a bad head cold. Cement work. Evaluate your flat work around the yard. Is the patio functional? Is it usable? Or is it starting to crack, lift from mature landscape trees? What is the status of all your flat work, including your driveway that you drive in on every day coming home from work or school or wherever? Evaluate what needs to be done. Now, maybe you did this when you bought the house, but my experience has taught me that oftentimes we fall in love with a neighborhood, we fall in love with a giant soaking tub, a whirlpool bath, and we tend to ignore some of the other things outside the home like, oh yeah, but that's not that big a deal. It's a big deal now, huh? So cracked, dangerous walkways, you may have to address them now or soon down the road. Other hardscape issues like lighting, evaluate that, see how it's working. Are all the lights coming on fine? Or are there disconnects and you have like half a system that works and another 4 on the other side of the yard do not? You will find things like gophers, mice, rodents. They will tend to chew through. You can have even transformer issues where you get shorts out in the transformer for an insect infestation like wasps and earwigs and spiders. All those things need to go through so they're functional for you as well. Maybe they just need repairing, or maybe they need replacing. Pools. If you bought a place with a pool, I'm assuming that most inspections in this modern day and age, you know, your pool was inspected, not only for leaks, for plaster condition, for coping conditions, but also the plumbing underground. If it wasn't, you bought as is, you know, does everything work? Does the pump work? Does the back flushing work? Does the heater work if it's equipped with one? If you have a solar system, is it functional? So something else that you might want to check. And lastly, our plantscape, the green of the yard. Is this something that is going to require manual hedge trimmer, maybe a hand pruner, or is it going to require a chainsaw to recapture the youth and vitality of that mature landscape? That was my niche in the landscape industry. That's what I focused on in my area where I practiced, was those large overgrown yards. I'd say about 80% of my business was just that. And I made more trips to the dump with more mature landscapes. But here's our next phase. Here's our next phase of discussion. We have to determine what's going to work for you. And what I found as a designer and a contractor is a blended approach. A blended approach so that you save some money, can do some of the stuff yourself, and the end result is a new and revitalized mature landscape that allows you to function outside for the way you want to function, not the previous owners, like mentioned earlier. So you may want to leave, but prune some of the mature trees. You may want to prune some of the mature shrubbery, maybe either hollow them out into a scaffold canopy look, which opens up the ground area in between, and you can introduce new plantings and color down underneath there. Maybe there's some things that you are going to have to remove just to create some space and elbow room. Make sure things are not hanging on wires and cable lines. This is the stuff that you're going to be facing. And this is still a good weekend project. Maybe protracted over a few months, but hey, on a Saturday, it's you tackling it and getting it done. Okay, let's look at the next 5 or 6 priorities on, now you've decided to do it yourself. Here's a little bit of a step-by-step. Number 1, do you have a plan? Do you have a plan that is down on paper? Number 2, have you talked with everybody involved? I've said this, I don't know how many videos. Guys, you know what I'm talking about. Don't be a bossy the cow and just do what you think. Make sure that you talk with your significant other and partner, and make sure that everybody's on the same page and you know how much work you can do, how much work they can do, and how much you're going to have to farm out. The other thing is do you have the tools? Do you have the tools at your disposal to tackle this monster and wrestle it back into shape? And when I say at your disposal, I don't necessarily mean that you own it and it's out in the shed or the garage or the shop. That would be fantastic. But you know where you can put your hands on it. Maybe you have family, maybe you have friends, maybe you have rental, maybe one of the box stores or the rental yards, you can get what you need. And you have to know that in advance and what the cost is. And that brings me to my next thing, is cost. What kind of budget are you going to set for yourself? I have seen people set budgets of $50,000 for a backyard makeover, to me. However, they're only going to be there for 12 to 18 months. And I used to talk to them, not to talk myself out of money. There was times that I actually did, but I did a service for these people as to your location may not justify that much of an expense for such a short turnaround time of stay. $50,000, you could expect maybe a 10-year stay for sure. But a year to 18 months? I don't know. It's a personal decision. Now, one particular customer that I had, they dropped $30K, but they didn't know that they were going to have a job change in the next 6 months. And in 6 months, the sign went in the yard. They didn't get their $30,000 back, but they got at least 25K back of improvements, and they made a good tidy profit on it before they left the state. I thought that was pretty cool, but that's not a guarantee. So what is your budget? What is your reasonable expectations of the return on your investment from this mature landscape? And what kind of function are you putting in there? Is it one that is going to be easily sellable? Or are you ripping everything out and putting in a pool with a cement surround and you've got nothing but cement and hardscape back there? Now you're going to narrow that funnel of buyer when it comes time to sell. There are those out there, but maybe the next buyers that were so eager to buy your home, but man, they wanted some grass or they wanted a tree or something. So make sure you think it out and always think resale down the road, because you just don't know what the future holds. So having the end game in mind, important if not paramount. You know where you're going to start, you know where you are going to finish, and you know how you're going to dovetail anybody in that if some type of part of the project you have decided to farm out to others. And lastly, a big one, almost bigger than the budget, and that is time. Do you, your family, friends, and circle of influence have the time to tackle this and tackle it correctly? Because oftentimes, like I explained earlier in the show, it took me 18 months. 18 months with a full-time job, a brand new baby, and a significant other at the time that was out of house working. So I was literally removing landscape with a chainsaw while I had a toddler on the patio tethered in her little walker while she constantly wanted to break the tether, and I'm cutting a branch and running to help her. And you can see how time became 18 months. Some people have that perseverance. Not all of us, but some of us do. I had really no choice because I couldn't afford to farm it out to someone else. So make sure that if you are going to do this yourself, time is allocated correctly and it is blocked out, and you promise yourself nothing is going to impede my progress. I'm going to do this Saturday and Sunday. Now remember, in a lot of the other videos, I have told you about how to prepare for a project like this. Check out this video right here, okay? Step by steps. Don't forget the checklist that I'm offering all the time, every week. You can find it right here at the website. That will take you from step 1 to step 15, and at least you know where along the lines of that roadmap that you're going to be involved in and how much time it's going to take. If you think it's going to take an hour, plan on 3. If you think it's going to take a weekend, plan on 2 weekends, if not 3 weekends, because life just sometimes gets in the way. Now I'm really making it a strong point about the blending. There are those lots of landscapes that no matter what you do, what is before you right now, standing on that patio, staring back at you, it's just not going to work. None of it is going to work. And it's going to require a total demolition to the ground and a total reconstruction. There are those things. But what I'm really making a point of is the blend. For you guys that are DIYers, for you that want to save some dollars from a full-on professional approach, you're going to learn to blend what can be taken out, what can be left, what is useful, what you can put in, and how you can make it over so it's beautiful. It has new vitality and a whole new look with some of the existing features left behind. So when you're planning out your new greenscape part of your blended makeover, make sure you introduce plants that are not going to be huge. You're still going to have a few huge things here and there, front yard or backyard. Remember your understory plantings. Remember your perennials for color pops and fill-in values as this new blended, mature, new landscape comes to being. Make sure that you have all that you need and you're ready to go the morning of. That's not the day you hit the nursery. You hit the nursery the week before. You have everything on site. You have your planting mixes, your fertilizers, your help, your tools, your plant material, and you're ready to go. And that goes for any phase of your makeover. Always have it there ready to go. So when you get up on that morning, whatever time it is, and you go, you're not going to the store to start to get stuff. You'll burn a half a day's work. And in a half a day, you could have half the demolition down and in the dumpster you got a couple days ago, and that's delivered to your driveway. So planning. I love mature landscapes. I think there's a lot of value in them as long as they serve the needs of the people that own the property there. If it doesn't serve you, it's absolutely worthless. So to wrap it up, something attracted you to this home. Yeah, maybe it was shoved down your throat a little bit because of a work-related transfer. I get that. But you found your home, one that you want to continue to live with you and yours. You found the neighborhood, the schools, whatever it is. Now you have this landscape that you're tackling. Remember, the end game is always to recreate it into a way that is valuable to you, with a little bit of end game down the road. Maybe selling, maybe usefulness, maybe what the kids need right now when you're starting it certainly is not what they're going to need in 10 years. So think about futuristic of just you and your significant other. Maybe the kids are 10 and 12 years old. In 10 years, they're not going to give a crap how much grass you have. They're going to be gone. They're going to be off doing their own thing. And they're really not going to care about how much lawn you have. So consider what your needs are, not only today, but in the future down the road. Hey, if I can be any help to you, I am only an email away. Doesn't cost you nothing. And I'd really appreciate any support you can give me here on the channel, bringing you this educational information every single week, both here and on the podcast. Take a look at the website, a couple of products there, very inexpensive with a price reduction, I might add, on the digital course. You might want to check that out. Anyway, I'm Matt. You can call me Coach, and I'll catch you next Friday, every Friday. Don't forget Plan of the Week, and I'll see you guys then. Take care.